This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. I am delighted to be here with you as long as my battery holds on this. So if you're just tuning in, let me give you the lay of the land here. I am pre-recording. The hurricane is raging outside. The reports are coming in and it's very bad. Your prayers are appreciated. I'm not out of the woods yet, but I've got to do local radio from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Atlanta because of the effects of the storm, and it's kind of an all hands on deck at my flagship station where I'm still an employee there as well. So I am bringing you all the latest for your Friday. Before I do that, I don't know how the storm's going to play out for me. I do know that I am without power, and I am recording on a battery. So we'll see how this goes. I'm assuming everything will be okay. Prayers appreciated, though, for everybody that we have escaped by now. By the time you're listening to this, it will have blown through. That in any event. All right, I wanna go to Javier Milei for a minute. So I have a larger point. I want to play you something as well. A speech that he made. And I'm continue to be impressed with him. He's one of the few leaders who just continues to impress me as a leader, as someone who is plain spoken and understands evil and understands the nature of evil and how you combat it and push against it and all that sort of stuff. So Milei, let's back up. Milei came into Argentina promising pain. His campaign pitch was the Peronist government had broken the economy, and it would be very painful to undo it, but he could undo it if they trusted him to fix the economy. Everyone would suffer quickly, but it would get over, and they would resume their lives and, again, be the greatest economy in South America. He's a free market libertarian who is also Jewish, I believe. I think I've read that he's dabbled in Judaism. Milei is a free marketeer. He rejects tariffs. He rejects a lot of the ideas that are suddenly popular on the right these days in this country. He doesn't want the price controls of the left. He doesn't want the tariffs of the right. He's a free marketeer. And by the way, real-time free market experiment, as I mentioned the other day in Argentina, it's working. In Argentina, he got rid of rent controls, and the number of available properties has expanded. The costs have come down for rent. People who couldn't find homes are now finding homes. It's worked in real time. It has worked. And even the critics are begrudgingly acknowledging, okay, maybe we shouldn't have done rent controls the way we did. Now, they won't concede that rent controls are bad altogether. They're just saying, okay, maybe we did it badly. That's what the communists always say. They've just never tried it the right way, even the people who came up with it. Milei is someone we can and should do business with, and you will note there has not been a lot of conversations from the Biden administration about Milei and working with Argentina. There haven't been. I continue to believe that we should be ally shoring. We can't bring home our industrial base. It will drive up costs too much. It will drive up costs enough that you and I won't be able to afford the things we can afford now. And a lot of people you think are going to be working in industrial jobs are going to be unemployed and not able to buy anything because the factories are going to shut down. There's a reason we manufacture a lot of stuff overseas. Our economy has changed from a manufacturing base to a service economy. Now just listen to me here. Spare me the emails. I'm not saying everything. Yes, we do need to have our national security apparatus here. Yes, we need to build our weapon systems here, that sort of stuff. But a Barbie doll can be made somewhere else. Your clothing can be made somewhere else. And even a lot of the things that we buy industrially can be made somewhere else. Your vehicle can be made in the United States. It can be made in Mexico. I don't care about those things. And I know some of you do. But you can care in the hypothetical, and in the reality, it just becomes too expensive. It becomes too expensive. We can build stuff in Argentina cheaper than we build them here. It has a highly educated workforce. It is cheaper to build stuff there than here. And it has a president who gets it. We should be supporting him. We send jobs to Argentina. They're going to credit him, and we should be supporting him. Here's another reason we should support him. Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, spoke at the United Nations. I want to play you part of what Milei said to the United Nations. If you haven't heard this will kind of blow your mind here. This is good stuff. This is Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, speaking in English to the United Nations.
In this very house that claims to defend human rights, they have allowed the entry of bloody dictatorships like those of Cuba and Venezuela without the slightest reproach. In this very house that claims to defend the rights of women, it allows countries that punish their women for showing skin to enter the Committee for the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. In this very house, there has been a systematic voting against the State of Israel, which is the only country in the Middle East that defends liberal democracy, while simultaneously demonstrating a total inability to respond to the scourge of terrorism. In this very house that claims to defend human rights, they have allowed the entry of bloody dictatorships.
And that's repeating it. That's impressive. That is well done. That is well said. Now, as that was playing, a buddy of mine actually texted me and said he thinks that might actually be the interpreter's voice. I thought it synced perfectly with Milei's lips. I thought he was speaking in English. But in any event, those are his words. That's powerful. And a damning indictment on the United Nations in this very house that claims to defend human rights. They've allowed the entry of bloody dictatorships like those of Cuba and Venezuela without the slightest reproach. In this very house that claims to defend the rights of women, it allows countries that punish their women for showing skin to enter the Committee for the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. In this very house, there has been systematic voting against the State of Israel, which is the only country in the Middle East that defends liberal democracy while simultaneously demonstrating a total inability to respond to the scourge of terrorism. I continue to be impressed with Javier Milei. I continue to be appalled at our own ongoing need to be in the United Nations. I just don't know that we need to continue in the United Nations at this point. What purpose does it serve? Multilateral relationships on the planet seem to be better. We need a forum to talk to the United Nations. We're not talking to Hamas and Hezbollah and Israel at the United Nations. We're using back-channel emissaries. It's great real estate. I don't know why we don't tear the building down and put it up for sale. The government could make some great money off the sale of it to the private sector. I just find the United Nations to be worthless. Now, it's occasionally a great place, like the Milei speech. Fantastic, in your face. You people do this. The Committee on Human Rights, you put the worst human rights abusers on. The Committee on Women's Rights, you put the worst abusers of women's rights on it. It was great when Nikki Haley was the UN ambassador, or Jean Kirkpatrick back in the 80s, giving them the business, pointing out their hypocrisy. But I don't understand why we want to allow foreign dictators and leaders like the president of Iran to come into the United States so that they can mingle at the United Nations. I don't understand why we need to be a part of this organization. It would save us money. We would get some great deals on the real estate. I think it's a pathetic organization. And I think Milei is great. It's like, so Bukele in El Salvador. Bukele is much more of a dictator than Milei. Milei is not a dictator. Bukele has rearranged the rules in El Salvador to stay in power beyond when he would. He was able to get the Supreme Court there, which was in his pocket to be able to do it and stuff like that. But look at Bukele, though, in all seriousness. He's got flaws. He's absolutely acting as a dictator, but also the people in El Salvador were fleeing that country because of the crime, and the crime is no more. And all the belly aching from all the human rights groups can whine about what he's done there, but he's made the country safe and he's made the people safe, and the people love him for it. And what's the Biden administration done? Same thing to Milei. They've turned their back on him. They don't want to help him. They accuse him of human rights abuses. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, the supposed border czar, wanted to go to Central America, to the triangle countries down there, and she wanted to figure out the root causes of mass immigration to the United States, including illegal immigration. The root cause is the gang violence that is no longer happening in El Salvador, so that country, its citizens are not fleeing to the United States in the way they are in those other countries down there, like Guatemala and the like. They've actually been able to cut down on the illegal immigration. They've done the Biden administration a favor. And what's the Biden administration done? Treated him like a bully, treated him like a human rights abuser, treated him like he's some sort of third world kleptocrat. There's no proof he's stealing in government. Is he a heavy hand? Absolutely. But given the crime and gang violence, they clearly needed it. You can walk the streets at night in the capital city of El Salvador, something you couldn't do 10 years ago without dying or being kidnapped. Even really 5-6 years ago. Progressives in this country treat government as religion. And they have certain values for their government religion. And progressivism comes not just with social issues, but with economic issues, and combine the socioeconomic political sphere of the state has to lean to the left. It can't be conservative. It can't be to the right. It certainly can't be free market. So they're treating Milei and Bukele as pariah when they've stabilized their countries. They've improved the economics of their countries. They've reduced flight from their countries, most of which winds up here. We should be sending them business. We should be sending them manufacturing jobs that are too expensive to do here but could be done there more cheaply. We should be sending them infrastructure opportunities. We should be sending them things to prop them up and reward them for what they've done, not just for the free market, but for us. For us. Bukele has stemmed the tide of illegal immigration from El Salvador. Milei has stemmed the tide of flight from Argentina. He's boosted their economy. We should be helping them. And the Biden administration, because they're not progressive, refuses to help at all. It's just shameful, shameful, shameful.
He'll do the research and give it to you straight. Eric Erickson is live every weekday.
Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number 877. Why am I giving you the phone number? I'm not even here. It's just habit. Sorry. I'm on a battery without any power. I'm not even going to be able to take a hot shower as I record this thing because I want you guys to have the latest and greatest, but I've got to do, 7-8 hours of local radio today because of the hurricane. But I've also got to do my national show. I'm trying not to be worn out already with very little sleep, obviously. So in any event, prayers appreciated as this storm continues to roll through. It's just brutally devastating. It's not a good thing. I want to mention right here, Ron Wyden is the progressive senator from Oregon. He has unveiled a sweeping, supposedly reform bill for the United States Supreme Court. It would add 6 progressive seats to the Supreme Court. That's right. So the Supreme Court would now go from a 6-3 conservative majority to a 9-6 progressive majority. And he's doing this right before the election. All this is going to do is amplify Republican concerns and possibly cost the Democrats the Senate. I will tell you, Mitch McConnell believes and has said that he thinks that we got to believe the Democrats. When they say they want to end the filibuster, we need to take them at their word. And they want to end the filibuster to, one, implement abortion as the law of the land, and also they want to take do the filibuster, get rid of the filibuster so they can pack the Supreme Court. Now, you know what's going to happen, of course, if Republicans then take back the Senate. They're going to add 6 more seats to the United States Supreme Court. And you're just going to have this massive super legislature eventually as both sides keep doing it. It's a terrible idea to begin with. But also what it's going to do is there are a number of people, personally, I believe, probably sitting on the sidelines. We're going to get into this when we come back. There are people who are probably sitting on the sidelines thinking, I don't like Trump. I don't like Harris. I'm not going to go vote. And you hear a guy like Ron Wyden, who's a ranking Democrat, say, this is what we're going to do. If we win the White House and we win the House and Senate, we're going to get rid of the filibuster and we're going to put 6 progressives on the United States Supreme Court. When you hear that, there are some people who might get off the couch and go vote for Donald Trump. Heck, there are some people who might get off the couch and go campaign for Donald Trump. It's a radicalizing idea. It was told enough, and apparently there are some Democrats who are not happy with Ron Wyden trotting this out. He's viewing it as a way to mobilize the progressive base for Kamala Harris. The problem for Ron Wyden is the Senate, because it's going to mobilize Republicans in Montana and Ohio and maybe Pennsylvania and elsewhere to turn out and support the Republicans and give Republicans control of the Senate. And then it's dead as a doornail. It's a plan they won't be able to implement. It's a plan they won't be able to pass. All he's doing in his quest to fire up the progressive base is radicalizing Republicans who might otherwise sit it out and not vote for Donald Trump. Look, it's a real possibility. I would not be dismissive of that if I were you. And I know some people want to be. I would not be. I think Democrats are playing with fire when they trot stuff out like this. Because, look, you know my views on Trump. I'm going to vote for him. I'm going to support him. But he's not my favorite. But stuff like this guarantees I'll check a box with his name next to it. And I've heard from a number of friends of mine when this rolled out that were the same way. They're like, I was going to leave it blank. But I think I got to protest this sort of radicalism. I got to go vote for Trump. Begrudgingly, they do. And yet they do, because this sort of stuff, it drives a lot of Republicans crazy to have thought of all of the toil they put in capturing the Senate and all that. And now to be able to shape the Supreme Court, now the Democrats just want a cheat code. Makes them mad. Y'all, listen, there's no cheat code when it comes to your finances, particularly protecting your ability to spend cash. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they've been warning people about a secret war on cash for some time. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the secret war on cash, you need to listen for Swiss America's free report. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Swiss America can educate you on protecting your assets in their report, The Secret War on Cash. I have read it. It takes less than 15 minutes. It can save your retirement and finances. It is completely free. All you do is call or text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. Y'all out War on Cash includes digital forms of currencies. It's growing daily. So read the Secret War on Cash report completely free. Just call or text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Greetings and welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the fruited plain. I'm delighted to have you with me today. No need to give you the phone number because I actually can't take your phone calls with the hurricane and everything else. Your prayers are appreciated as this thing is rolling through. My battery is holding out. I'm in the dark recording this for you this morning as the sun comes up and the storm is raging outside. The debris everywhere. It is a mess. It is a mess, and there are lives lost south of me and probably around me. So prayers appreciated. Okay, I'm going to do something here, and I know the bulk of my audience is very smart. And so you'll understand I'm commenting on something, not advocating for something. But occasionally when I bring this issue up, I get irate emails from people who are convinced I'm trying to encourage people not to vote, which is not what I'm doing. I'm trying to explain to you what's going on out there. I'm trying to get you to understand what's going through the minds of other people, trying to get you to at least understand them, even if you disagree with them. To do that, I need to play you an advertisement by Evangelicals for Harris. Again, I'm going to say this one more time. Anyone who emails me to complain is going to identify themselves as a major short bus riding moron. I am not advocating for what you are about to hear, but you need to hear it so that I can then explain this to you. And again, I'm not advocating for people sitting out the election. I'm not advocating for people voting for Kamala Harris. I gave money to Trump. I'm voting for Trump. I do not want her to win. I want him to win. But you at least need to understand the phenomenon. Have I made myself clear? So you're not going to send me hate mail and ask why I'm encouraging people to sit it out. I'm just trying to explain to you what's going on here. This is the latest ad. It is a 1-minute ad. It is from Evangelicals for Kamala Harris. You need to listen to this.
But you must realize that in the last days, the times will be full of danger. Men will become utterly self-centered and greedy for money.
My whole life I've been greedy. I've grabbed all the money I could get. I'm so greedy.
They will be proud and abusive.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals.
Uncontrolled and violent.
Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
They will be treacherous, reckless, and arrogant.
I am the chosen one.
Loving what gives them pleasure instead of loving God.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet.
Maintain a facade of religion, but their lives deny the truth.
Have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
That's a tough question. I'm not sure I have. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't.
Keep clear of people like that.
And then it ends saying Evangelicals for Harris. That is the ad. And let me say again, I'm not endorsing it. I don't condone it. You need to know what's going on. There is this idea among evangelicals that voting is a stewardship issue. We, as believers, as Christians, are called to be stewards of this planet, the stewards of Gondor, if you will. The real king will return. In the meantime, we're to be stewards. We're not to be negligent. We're not to be derelict in our duties. We're to care for the planet, including for its governments as God has created. And stewardship means voting for the best candidate to advance your views, even if that person's flawed. But there are some evangelicals who do believe, there used to be more now, more then than there are now. There are some evangelicals who believe that in stewarding our vote, occasionally it is worth not voting. Because in not voting, what you are doing is you are signaling your disgust with both sides, that you don't think there's a good option. And evangelicals, if they do this in large number, believe that in the stewardship of not voting, what they're doing is they're signaling, one of you got to present to us a candidate with better character. And if you don't, we're going to keep not voting. And you know we're a huge demographic group. You could get us on your side, but you got to present us somebody who's not just going to pat us on the head, but actually be an upstanding individuals. Again, feel free to disagree with it. I'm trying to explain to you these people. They exist in a minority of evangelicals, but in a tied race, it's a minority group that matters. And it's one that's far easier for Republicans to pick off than Democrats. What the Evangelicals for Harris ad is doing is essentially telling Christians, don't vote. It's based on Paul's letter to Timothy, second letter to Timothy, chapter 3, verses 1 through 5, which Billy Graham is reading in this clip, and it is Billy Graham. But you must realize that in the last days, the times will be full of danger. Men will become utterly self-centered and greedy for money, full of big words. They will be proud and abusive without any regard for their parents. They will be utterly lacking in gratitude, reverence, and normal human affection. They will be remorseless scandal mongers, uncontrolled and violent, and haters of all that is good. They will be treacherous, reckless, and arrogant, loving what gives them pleasure instead of loving God. They will maintain a facade of religion, but their lives deny the truth. Keep clear of people like that. That was Paul writing to Timothy. That's Billy Graham's voice. And obviously this ad is saying, hey, evangelicals, it's not just on the left, it's Donald Trump. Donald Trump's like that too. You should be a good steward and not vote for Trump. The problem here is it ends with the graphic Evangelicals for Harris. And it is a clever, in my mind, ploy by a bunch of pro-abortion activists trying to justify Kamala Harris. And essentially, it may not say vote for Harris, it's essentially urging your stewardship to elect someone who would be terrible for the church, terrible for Christians, terrible for children, terrible for freedom, terrible for all that evangelicals hold dear. It would be a much more effective ad if it wasn't from a group tied to Kamala Harris, but was actually an ad saying, hey, Christians, he's just like this verse where Paul is warning you to avoid people like this. The other side is as bad as well. If you want to have a real impact, stay home. Don't vote. They'll know it, and they'll have to change. To get your vote, they'll have to find better people. But that's not what this ad is doing. That would be more effective. But that's not what this ad is doing. This ad is an explicit play to convince people to help Kamala Harris. How do I know that? Because the logo at the end says Evangelicals for Harris. You don't have to say, hey, at the end, vote for Kamala Harris. Don't vote for Donald Trump. You don't have to say that. It's very explicit here. This is a campaign ploy. They are weaponizing Scripture, not to get evangelicals to be good stewards of their vote by refusing to vote. A view, by the way, I don't endorse it, but I get it. I'm sympathetic to it, even if I don't endorse it. They're trying to weaponize Scripture to help a woman who is the antithesis of things evangelicals value, and you need to know the difference. The intent matters here. The intent of something like this is not to be scriptural. It's not to be biblical. The intent is to shame people who are Christians, who are people of faith, and convince them to help get Kamala Harris elected. A woman who, as a United States senator, did nothing when Barack Obama decided to sue nuns. As Attorney General, regularly harassed faith-based groups to advance a progressive agenda. But these people don't care. They will twist the truth. They will tickle ears in order to help Donald Trump. And when you think about the lines involved in the Scripture, in the last days, it will be full of danger. Men will become utterly self-centered and greedy for money, full of big words. I know a woman who's full of big words. They'll be proud and abusive without any regard for their parents. Where's her dad? They'll be utterly lacking in gratitude, reverence, and normal human affection. They'll be remorseless, scandal mongers, uncontrolled and violent, and haters of all that is good. She's gone after churches and Christians. They'll be treacherous, reckless, and arrogant, loving what gives them pleasure instead of loving God. They'll maintain a facade of religion, but their lives deny the truth. Keep clear of people like that. It applies to her as much as it applies to him. I'm not a fan of either candidate. You know that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be her or him. And I would prefer his policies to her policies. This would be a very effective ad for a subset of evangelicals who really dislike both candidates and think they're both bad, if it wasn't a ploy to help Kamala Harris. And that's something that I think the progressives can't understand. That it's not always about them. It's not always about their cause. It's not always about their side. And by making these things about them, they're not actually making a persuasive case. I got to tell you, if it wasn't an Evangelicals for Harris ad, I know people that this ad would persuade to say, you know what, I got to be a good steward, and my vote is to leave the field fallow, and then a great crop will rise because I left it fallow. That's not what's happening here. It's the Harris supporters twisting Scripture. Listen, I was talking to a guy the other day. Y'all would all know him. Not going to say his name. He was infuriated by these Republicans who are coming out for Kamala Harris and supposed conservatives coming out for Kamala Harris. He's saying, listen, I understand you hate Donald Trump, and I understand you don't want to vote for him. And I kind of get it. Even if I disagree with you, I kind of get it. But to say that I dislike Donald Trump, so I'm going to vote for a woman who wants to end the filibuster for abortion rights, and I'm going to vote for a woman who thinks that you can kill a child until the moment is completely out of the womb, and I'm going to vote for a woman who is a radical progressive who hates everything my values stand for just because I hate Donald Trump, it infuriates me that any of these people would stand up and pretend to have some sort of moral clarity and say, I hate this man's character, therefore I've got to vote for this woman whose character is also terrible. That's kind of where I am. The other thing is these people have written themselves out of the future of the conservative movement. There will come a time when Donald Trump is not part of the movement. He will be dead. He'll be retired. He'll be somewhere, but he won't be part of the movement. There will be a fight to be had about the future of the Republican Party and the conservative movement. And these people who have decided they got to endorse and support Kamala Harris, they will have no place at the table. And they shouldn't. If their values are such that they're going to vote for the antithesis of conservatism in order to save conservatism, their judgment is too in question to have them be part of it. It's just like these evangelicals for Harris, many of whom, they're not even conservative evangelicals. They despise evangelicalism. They're just using the name. They're progressive theologically. They're not part of the evangelical movement, and they're trying to trick evangelicals into helping Kamala Harris. And I personally believe that the evangelicals will be too smart to fall for it. Now, I want you to fall for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. I really do love this device. And they sent me a new one. The old one was black. It was kind of boxy. Could hold it in one hand, but it was kind of big. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm, now it is even smaller, and it's just as effective. It's even more effective, arguably, because now instead of just generating ozone to wipe out odors, it generates plasma ions to wipe out bacteria and viruses, and it works. You can hold this thing in your hand. It's small enough I keep it in my travel bag. In fact, I've gotten rid of my old one, which was small. This is even smaller than the old one, and it works just as well. You can buy one, get one free this week at EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Eric Bogo, ERICKBOGO. What you do is you go to EdenPureDeals.com. That's the website, EdenPureDeals.com. You'll see a discount code box, and you put in Eric Bogo, ERICKBOGO, at EdenPureDeals.com. You buy one, you get one. You buy 5, you get 5 free. That's what you do. EdenPureDeals.com. Eric Bogo is your discount code.
You're listening to The Eric Erickson Show, the perfect blend of news, analysis, opinion, and cooking. Hang on. Is that right? Yeah, cooking.
Greetings and welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. Man, the storm is still raging, but that's okay. I want to respond to, I said something earlier, and I've gotten emails on it, even though I've said it a couple times, and I'm going through my spam folder because I said it yesterday as well. And so I've got somebody says, like earlier in the show, I said, if you put a bullet to my head, or you put a gun to my head and you said, who's going to win? I would say Trump. And I said something very similar yesterday. And so I have an email from someone who is asking, can you really explain your thinking on this? Because it feels like it's the momentum has shifted to Harris. Okay, first of all, I don't feel like the momentum has shifted to Harris. Here's what I think, and it goes back to the Gallup data. Since 1948, the candidate for president who has checked the boxes on the most of the issues that voters care about is the candidate who wins. Kamala Harris is the incumbent candidate. Whether she wants to consider herself that or not, she is, because she's in the Biden-Harris administration. She, in so doing, is responsible for the Biden-Harris administration. And in so doing, she owns the policies of the Biden-Harris administration. Donald Trump gets majority support on the economy, on the border, on a separate issue tied to it, on immigration. They're treated differently there. On crime, and even on foreign policy and geostability, Donald Trump wins. So yeah, on likability issues, Kamala Harris wins. But voters, when they go vote, they want people who want to improve their future. And they don't believe that she's going to improve their future more than Donald Trump. So I continue to think that in a tied race, yes, Donald Trump's got problems. People don't like him, and that aggravates his supporters when I say it, because they're in a bubble generally where everyone they know loves him, where the people who don't, they're not going to say anything because they know they don't want to get in a fight with you about it. But the reality is that they don't want, that they don't like Donald Trump, but they like his policies. And that's, for Trump supporters, something you've got to understand. There's no reason to attack people who don't like him, who want his policies, because they're going to vote for him. They're going to vote for him. And that's why I think he's going to win. Because as much as there are people out there who don't like him, those same people actually like his policies. And they think they're going to benefit from his policies. And they think in benefiting from his policies, their lives are going to improve more than if Kamala Harris is there. So in a tied race, yes, I think it's Donald Trump's race to lose still. I still think he's probably ahead. And also, you got to remember that Donald Trump tends to overperform from his polling, because there are a lot of people who will go vote for him who they're not getting polled, they're not participating with pollsters. He tends to overperform his polling. So when you couple those things with the trajectory of the race, the issues of the race, and things like that, yes, I also will say as a caveat, as a carve-out and caveat, ground game matters greatly. And he doesn't have a good ground game. There's some guy on Twitter, I don't pay attention to him, but he harasses me on occasion. Oh, here's another story about the Trump ground game. Erickson's going to be the one who's so upset about it. No, listen. You can tell me that you are out there every day knocking on doors, but telling me doesn't mean you're doing it. It's the same thing with Kamala Harris saying she worked at McDonald's. I don't believe her. Maybe she did, but we should be able to verify it. And thus far, no one's been able to verify it. Shouldn't have a picture or uniform or anything like that. You tell me he's got an amazing ground game, I'll believe it when I see it, but literally I know no one who's got to knock on their door from the Trump campaign. I know from outside groups, but not the Trump campaign. So the ground game in a tied race matters, and that could cost him the election. But no, I don't think the momentum has shifted to Kamala Harris at all. I still think it's his race to lose. He may lose it, but it's his race to lose, not hers, because I still think he's ahead.